As customary, I'd like to start out by thanking all of you for posting your questions and making this video possible. Let's begin. When Ernie was shelved and people beat him up, did he get revenge when he was reinstated and made a captain? And this person's speaking about Ernie Grillo, who during the time he was on the shelf was assaulted. Ernie knows the life very well, and the fact that you're not supposed to use your membership to seek revenge on personal issues. You can do so on a sneak, but I don't believe that Ernie looked to get revenge, at least not that I know of. How did John Gotti handle the treatment and divorce of his daughter Victoria from Carmine Agnello? I believe there's a prison video where she discussed her wanting to get a divorce, or something to that effect. I honestly don't know what he felt about it. I mean, at the end of the day, she is his daughter, and I'm sure he wasn't too pleased with Agnello. Were known associates able to have access to social clubs, or were they strictly for members only? Back when social clubs existed, you could find both members and associates in them. As most are aware, sale and use of drugs were a big no within the life to a certain extent, but were there any members that smoked weed recreationally? I'm sure a lot of guys did smoke, but one in particular, who was always high, was Bubsy Castelli. Let me quickly respond to two questions which mention other content creators. I don't speak about these people, unlike their need to continuously mention me. And it's not that I'm unwilling to answer questions, but I do draw the line when the questions involve people I have no interest in talking about. Is it looked down upon when an elderly or sick mobster tries to get compassionate release, and is it considered weak? Everyone who's in prison has one objective, and that's to get out. Nobody enjoys having their freedom taken away. So an elderly person trying to get compassionate release is by no means looked down upon. Which leads us into the correlating question. What are your thoughts and opinions on Bobby Manna's motion for compassionate release being granted? Manna was granted compassionate release last week on April 16th. He was previously denied back in 2020. Presently, he's plagued with severe health issues, including lung cancer. And despite being released, he'll have to wear an ankle bracelet, a monitor, and must be in his house 24 hours a day. In addition, he can only communicate with his caretakers and his probation officer. At 95 years old, to be able to get out and not die in prison, in my opinion, I say good for him. Do lower tiered people, like associates, ever get to meet or have a relationship with the boss? Or is it just for captains and up? There are plenty of associates who are friendly with or have relationships with the boss of a family. Mikey DeSantis, for example, deals with a lot of associates. Is there an instance you can remember when a guy refused to compromise in a sit-down and was later retaliated against? With the member, no, but an associate or a civilian can have a problem if they're being difficult or not listening to what they're being told. Did you meet or hear about Damiano Caracci during your time in the life? He is someone who's suspected of being a Gambino member. To be perfectly honest, I never heard of him. And I did Google his name for the purpose of getting a photo to go along with this question, but there was nothing there. What happens to a member's loan shark money when they go to prison? And what would happen to that money if the member died while incarcerated? If a guy goes away, he has two options. He can call his loans in, or have someone handle his customers. If he dies while in prison, I'm sure his captain or someone in his crew will glom the money and the customers. You mentioned Big John blocking you from being an acting captain for Dom Trissello's crew. Did Joe DiNapoli weigh in on that decision? And if so, why do you think he'd side against a fellow old-timer? To begin with, this took place when Joe DiNapoli went to prison, which left a void in the consigliere position. At that time, Dom and Big John were supposed to handle the position jointly. It was suggested by Dom, and he mentioned it to me, about helping him out with his crew. And he discussed it with Big John as well, but obviously, John didn't want to see that for me. Anyway, the family's transition took place, and Big John not only lost his chance at a higher position, but eventually lost his captain position as well. You previously mentioned Johnny Sideburns going to Florida to see Meyer Lansky. Did any of the old-timers tell stories about Tommy Lucchese or any of the old-time bosses of yesteryear? Johnny Sideburns did mention going to meet with Meyer Lansky, which caused Anthony Guzzo to crack up and ask, "How fucking old are you?" Besides that, no one mentioned any old-timers such as Tommy Lucchese. If two members from different families were in a dispute over territory and one said that a sit down was needed, but the other guy suggested settling it with a fight, what would happen? Well, two things would happen. The guy can accommodate him at that point and fight or walk away, and the guy who suggested fighting should be in a world of trouble. Again, one of the rules is you're not supposed to put your hands on another member. So suggesting a fight is doing just that. One question was asked about The Sopranos, who my favorite character was, or did a certain character remind me of anyone, and what was my favorite episode. I've mentioned this in the past. I only watched season 1 and didn't have a favorite character or feel that any of the characters related to anyone I knew. Keep in mind, it's a fictional show. I've seen the picture of Vito Guzzo with Joe O'Kane's pet cougar. During your time in the life, did you know of any guys who kept exotic pets? Not that I was aware of. Most guys kept dogs as pets. Dom Trusello had pondfish that he believed the FBI poisoned. How often did you go to the Coddington Club, and what were the dishes that they served you? Well, that's a first. I went to the Lucchese Club up in the Bronx a few times a month, and most of us didn't go on a weekly basis. Possibly the captains did. And sometimes a month or two would go by before I did go. It varied. And we didn't eat off of fine china, put it that way. Did you know if John Campapiano was straightened out, and did you ever meet him? I believe Johnny Echoes was a Lucchese member from East Harlem. I never met him, but heard stories about him and know that he was a Pleasant Avenue guy. Would you say the mob has a recruitment problem? There's no longer real Italian neighborhoods and young Italian Americans who want to join the mob, which is rare nowadays. Actually, there's a great deal of young Italian Americans, but not many Italian enclaves like there used to be. But it's true, young Italians are not so eager, and I'm not going to use the term join the mob because the mob is not something you could sign up for. So I'll say they no longer have the desire or hopes of becoming mobsters. As for recruitment, as the saying goes, there's a sucker born every day, so the mob will always have young guys to propose. If you haven't liked this video yet, please take the time now and give it a thumbs up, as it helps me out with YouTube's algorithm. Also, for anyone who'd like to show their appreciation for videos like this, and considering this channel and its videos are still being manipulated to help me continue making videos, you can donate with the super thanks icon down below or through the PayPal Cash App links in the video's description. And let me remind everyone of my blog, especially those of you who still enjoy reading. It can be found at sitdownnews.com and is subscription only. And for the final question, if you were a young guy in today's world, say 25, what path would you go down? College, trades, or an entrepreneur? At 25 years old, the world is your playground. If college was an option for me, it would take place younger than 25 years old. But education is essential and key. Taking up a trade is always a great decision and will most definitely pay off in the end. I think if I had to do it all over again and had the pleasure of being 25, I would pick a profession that appeals to me the most, invest my money to create passive income, and put whatever I have into real estate. After all, the objective to winning the game Monopoly is to own all the property and end up with all the money.